Hey, what's up? Matt Zook here. Let me see. What can I talk about for Fear Street? We shot all three of those movies in Georgia, back to back to back. We shot the 90s first, then we shot the 1600s, then we shot the 70s one. There was an actor playing the younger version of me in the 70s, so I didn't get to spend much time on set during that one, but you saw they did some really fun, some really cool stuff. For the 1600s one, we got to have a dialect coach. So there was someone working with us to do that accent that you heard. It was like an early American, old country Irish hybrid kind of thing, which was really cool. I hadn't really done anything like that before, so it was a lot of fun. And yeah, I just don't go out there.
In a world where zombies, ghosts, serial killers, and vampires all exist, it's Nico, Brian, Mike, and Dustin, and they are all that stand between you and the films that could end the world. Welcome to the Don't Go Out There Horror Movie Podcast.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Don't Go Out There Horror Movie Review Podcast. Just want to thank all our fans and listeners. I really appreciate all support. You guys are awesome. Before we get into tonight's film review, I just want to give a quick shout out to our website, don'tgoouthere.com. Everything about our podcast is on there. We have all of our episodes and interviews from episode 1 to the new releases. Check that out. We have some incredible interviews we've done in the past. Definitely go check those out. We've got our store. We got some new t-shirts. We got Shane's Etsy page. We got our blog. We got our social media links, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. Like us, subscribe us, follow us, all that good stuff. We really appreciate all the fan support. Last thing I want to shout out on our website is our blood donors. We have a monthly kind, and we have the monthly recurring kind and a one-time donation. None of the money that you donate goes into our pockets. It just goes directly back into the podcast. Takes a big burden off of us. We really appreciate all your support. And tonight is our second entry in what Mike calls Streaming Original Month. Tonight is Mike's pick. You want to go ahead, brother?
Yeah, so basically I picked the movie I based this whole month off of, which was Fear Street 1978, not 6, 8, which is obviously a nod to the year the original Halloween came out. This is a nod to slashers of the 80s, Friday the 13th, and, Sleepaway Camp and all of those. And I think I love those little nods here. I really enjoy this film. I like the story. I like the lore of the Fear Street trilogy, which we did an instant reaction show to these when they came out in the summer of 2021. And I remember back then we all liked them. I was really interested to see if we all still felt the same as we did, because I went back and listened to those this week. I was really curious to see if our minds had changed at all. This is my favorite one of those three. It hits all the notes for me. It's got the fun, campy slasher stuff. It builds upon the lore that the first one does. The acting is better in this one to me. I love Sadie Sink. I think she does a great job as the lead here. And I love all the other supporting actors as well. I like the villain. I like that he even at the end, he's Team Sack, which I can appreciate. If you know my love for Sackhead Jason, he kind of modernizes that look a little bit. I think it looks pretty cool. Really cool kills. Even the cutaway kills I think are really cool. The music is spot on. This is a great soundtrack in this movie. The 70s, the late 60s, all that good music is there. Even Nirvana's version of The Man Who Sold the World at the beginning is great. And I just think that they did a great job in all of those ways. There are some problems with it. It's not perfect. It gets a little cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs as far as, the actual spooky stuff goes. But I think it's a really cool tribute to those mid-'80s slasher movies. I'm excited to talk about it.
All right, I'll go next, Mike. I still love the movie. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Watched it 3 times to get prepared for this. A rewatch in notes and another rewatch today. Thoroughly enjoy it. I agree 100%, Mike. Sadie Sink is awesome. She's one of my favorite women in horror. She would honestly be on my top 10 final girls list if we ever did another one. She's phenomenal. And like you said, great throwback to the 80s campy slashers. A lot of good callbacks to other horror movies. I'm a big fan. I have, some nitpicks that I don't like as well, but I'm a really big fan of this movie. It's one of my favorite recent horror movies that have come out.
And you didn't even say anything about it being 2 hours long, so that means you must really like it.
It was an hour and 40.
9.
Hour
9.
and 40. Well, yeah, okay. All right. Y'all got me on that one. Y'all got me. Fair enough. It was pretty long. Not gonna lie. That's a nitpick I have. I just didn't say anything about it on the beginning. It's fine.
Well, Nico too. Look, I even saved my note file as Fear Street 1976. So I have no idea why I have such a hard time with this date. It's ridiculous, actually. Anyway, I think I said it when we did the instant reaction, but I was a big Goosebumps fan growing up and knew about the Fear Street series, but I was a Goosebumps guy. Probably had to do with the age. But when I saw this new series on Netflix, I had to give it a shot. Instantly texted the guys and said, "You guys got to watch this." I was careful not to suggest a review, however, because of what happened with Army of the Dead. Suggest it to the group before watching it, but I digress. Like I said in that instant reaction we did, of those 3 movies, I really like this trilogy a lot. It's unlike you guys. 94 is probably my favorite, but this one is definitely right there with it. I liked part 3 as well, just not as much as the first 2. The atmosphere in this movie, I think, is spot on. I love the nostalgic feel, taking me immediately to, Friday the 13th. You mentioned the nods to the slashers. I also want to add Tommy, Alice. Those have to be nods to the Friday series.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And like you said, being Team Sack, the whole 9 yards. The cast plays, I think, these pretty cliche, and I say cliche in a good way, camp slasher characters, I think, perfectly. Sadie Sink, I think, is fantastic here. And credit to writers Zach Alkowitz and Lee Janik. I think that this does a fantastic job of being the middle chapter, giving you those Easter eggs from the first one, furthering the overarching story, and being able to stand alone on its own. Which obviously, if it didn't, Mike wouldn't really be able to pick it here first, to review of the 3. And obviously that's the most important thing. Overall, I like this entry, but I have a lot of problems with the second half of this movie. But it's one I'm able to look past and just have fun with. Personally, speaking of fun, a fun fact right off the rip. This is the middle entry, but was actually filmed last, apparently, in the trilogy.
Yeah, I remember when these released on Netflix, I watched them all, and I enjoyed them. And the thing was, though, they didn't really stick with me, because when this pick was announced, I even had to ask, it's like, hey, do I need to rewatch the first one? Do I need to rewatch 1994 first? Or because it's not that it's a bad movie, it's just for some reason it didn't stick with me. Upon the rewatch, I agree with what Brian said, how 94 was my favorite of the 3. I did like this one more on this rewatch than I remember watching it the first time. But yeah, they do a lot of good. Casting is phenomenal, particularly Emily Rudd. She's the apple of my eye this week. And
God almighty.
And the atmosphere, like, they did a great job of capturing the era. Like, it actually looked and felt. Now, I was negative 10 years old in 1978, but from what I imagine, what I've seen in other movies and things of the time, of the period, they did a great job of capturing the 1978, vibe. And I think it's a little slow moving at times, little plotting, a little deliberate, but it's forgivable in the second half with the pacing. But I agree with you, Brian. Also, the second half does lend itself to more issues. But overall, I mean, it's an enjoyable movie. It's a fun movie. I remember watching this movie, and I just thought, it's kind of weird to me. This whole trilogy is a little bit weird to me in the way that there's nudity and sex and a lot of cursing, but it really feels like a teen horror movie. Like, it feels like a Goosebumps. And so it's like, I remember, like,
Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Yeah.
Steroids,
and I remember when I was watching it the first time, I was like, who the hell are they marketing this for? I think it's us. I think it's the people that grew up.
Yeah, it's absolutely
the people
us.
that grew up
Yes,
on Goosebumps and Are You Afraid of the Dark, but are now old enough to, like, be okay with cussing and drug use and nudity and all this stuff. And so, as far as that goes, I can appreciate that as well. It really felt nostalgic, even though this was something I'd never seen obviously, until last year or whenever it came out.
So a few things. One, in hindsight, I kind of wish we had just reviewed this as a like back to back to back weeks. I know we typically don't do that, but this does feel like such an interconnected, woven story where I would have liked to at least attempted it in hindsight, but it doesn't matter now. It's too late. We're doing 78 right now. And another thing is, you mentioned who the target audience was. Now, Sadie Sink was cast off of her own acting ability, and I think she's great. But it's very clear to me the success of stuff like Stranger Things, which is, to me, teen horror in that way, allows them to kind of dip their toe into that market. And this is more gory and has more, sexual acts, with the volume turned up. But it's pretty clear they're going for that same target demo as when Stranger Things first came out. Now those people are a little bit older. So, hey, you like that, you'll probably like this too. And I think that was kind of the same demographic, at least in what I read into the research for Netflix to get the green light on this franchise.
Alrighty, guys, y'all got any more opening thoughts? We just jump to the scene by scene.
Yeah, it was filmed last because of the actor changes. 1 and 3 were filmed back to back because they had primarily the same actors, and part 2 was filmed last because the actors were changed quite a bit, which is very risky. And the only reason the lead writer, whose name is slipping me, she directed it because of a scheduling conflict. So that's pretty cool that they just went ballsy and got a whole new cast, basically minus a scene or two.
All righty, let's jump into the scene by scene. The film starts with a recap of Fear Street 1994, which I'm not going to go too deeply into. We hear a news anchor on the radio of the week's horror in Shadyside. We see a woman sitting on the couch and an alarm goes off. She has clocks everywhere. She cooks a TV dinner and pours a liquor drink. Another alarm, and she locks her doors up, shuts her windows, and her dog Major won't stop barking, asking for food. She's asleep on the couch and knocks at the door, and we see a flashlight through the mail slot. She's gone from the couch now. She hides her dog in the closet. The light is looking through the windows now, and Dina and Josh go to sneak, and C. Berman pulls her into the house. We get a recap of her calling Dina. C. Berman tells them they need to leave when she sees a rabid Sam tied up in the trunk. Dina says she's their last chance. She survived. What was different? You can't stop her. Run fast as you can. I love her. I can't let her die, Dina says. They tie up Sam in the bathroom, and Dina and Josh sit down with C. Berman. In Shadyside, the past is never really the past. July 12th, 1978, the first day of camp. A week later, my sister was dead. Clock noises as we see C. Berman and her sister at Camp Nightwing. Fear Street, 1978. Ziggy is running full speed through the woods until she's clotheslined. Sheila says, "You're going to hang, witch." We see Ziggy tied up and hanged by her hands. They chant at her and says she's a thief. Ziggy hits Sheila with her elbow, and Sheila tells of how Sarah Fier was hanged. Sheila now burns Ziggy's arm with a lighter. Nick Good runs up and has his brother, Will, let her free. Kurt says, "You're out, Berman." Ziggy says they tried to murder me. He names off all of her mishaps at camp, and Sheila says she's possessed by Sarah Fier. Nick makes the case she should stay to keep the authority off of them. Ziggy walks away, and Nick runs up to her and says to get the nurse to check it out. He now asks if he can get a thank you. Ziggy is sarcastic to him, shoots a bird, and walks away. We see camp activities now, and Gary says, "Color Wars tonight." We now meet Cindy and her boyfriend, Tommy. She grows frustrated when she can't scrub this moss off the bathroom stall. She panics when she sees she has it all over her shirt. Tommy kisses her now and gets a handful of cheat. She stops him and they kiss again. We now see Alice and Arnie having sex in the cabin, and Cindy says they have to finish cleaning the outhouse. Arnie lights up and Cindy says, "We have a job to do. This isn't funny." Alice says, "Get us drugs and we'll do whatever you want." Cindy storms out frustrated as Kurt scares her. Ziggy walks into Nurse Lane's office saying she's in trouble again. Ziggy looks through a book about witches and she's scared from behind by the nurse. She treats her burn and Ziggy asks about the witch's mark. She now tells the story of Ruby Lane, her daughter. Ziggy says she killed people at a party, 7 friends and herself. Doctor says it was a psychotic episode. Nurse begins to wrap the burn way too tightly and keeps talking, going into a trance. Ziggy yells, snapping her out of it. Cindy walks in and she and Ziggy talk. She tells Ziggy how bad things would be for her if she gets kicked out. "If you get kicked out, I do too." Ziggy says no one gets out of this town, not even Miss Perfect like you. She calls her a Shadyside and walks off. All right, Brian, that's the opening set of scenes I got. What'd you think, brother?
Yeah, and the promise of drugs is actually how we get Mike on the show every week. So that's kind of funny because coincides.
What?
Huh?
Honest man, trying to make a living, working hard to get to heaven where I come from. Oh, never mind.
Is that a country song? All right, so right off the bat, as we get the logo and hear the news story, the use of the piano by the composer Marco Beltrami and Brandon Roberts, definitely some Friday the 13th vibes there. I know they use some tributes throughout. The Omen, I think, and Alien comes later, but this one has to be Friday for sure, and immediately gives me that nostalgia feeling, hearing it first right off the bat. Now, look, this start with who we find out is adult Ziggy. I'm sorry to Jillian Jacobs, but also director Lee Janik is at fault here. This whole exchange with Dina and Josh getting there, trying to convince her to help them, it's just not well acted, or directed, or both. I don't know, but I don't like the exchange. Now, once we get to the camp, I'm happy, but this first part did not do it for me. And I love how when we're at the camp, I love how this dude here, I think it's Will, but the only dude that's running in Sheila's stable here. But I love how he literally just fucking clotheslined her and is suddenly questioning why he needs to give Sheila the lighter. Like, my moral high ground starts after beating the shit out of an obviously younger girl. Yeah, I love that. Something I will applaud them on, we've talked about here before, since it's basically a prequel, we get that age-old problem we've talked about of knowing some characters that will obviously be okay, like Nick Good, of course, we've seen. But what I do like is this fucking switcheroo they pull with C. Berman and Ziggy. So the whole time you think Jillian Jacobs from earlier is really Emily Rudd's Cindy and not Sadie Sink's character the whole time. Great job handling that, I thought, by the script writers. And like I said, I'm a fan of all these camp characters. I think they do a good job of covering all the tropes that I wanted to see with everyone, and also kind of lulling me into a false sense of security with thinking that I know the characters are playing, whom and what their future holds. A lot of threads going on here, especially with Jordan Spiro's Nurse Lane. You think they might go the Pamela Voorhees route, but doesn't quite. And by the way, Jordan is fantastic playing Rachel in Ozark, by the way. It took me forever to realize where I knew her from, but she's fantastic there as well. Last thing I'll say is just a little fun fact here about the camp. Most of the scenes here are filmed at Camp Rutledge, but some were filmed at Camp Daniel Morgan, where, of course, Friday the 13th Part 6 was filmed. Listen to interviews from 3 cast members and the director of Jason Lives on don'tgooutthere.com.
Yeah, Camp Rutledge is across the lake from the camp where they filmed Friday Part 6. So, again, really cool that the shot where the kid just jumps off the dock is straight on that dock where Jason pops his head out of the water on. So I think that's pretty cool. A pretty cool little nod there. All right, so I'm glad they included a recap here because when these were released, they came out week by week, so you weren't binging them in that way, and I think it's good to have the recap. You can skip it if you want. I feel like that's a good option as well. I'll say this. I'm with you here, Brian. This little part that takes place in 1994 at the beginning, I feel it's not that it's bad for me. It just goes longer than I want it to. Introduce C. Berman, get them exchanged, who's who, and then let's go to camp. Because I feel like it just takes a little longer than I would like it to. I do like having Nirvana's Man Who Sold the World in there. I'm not gonna lie, she made me really fucking want macaroni and cheese every time I watched it. I was like, man, that sounds good every single time. But anyway, so I'm with you there. I just feel like we're on that year a little too long. Let's go back to Camp Nightwing for sure. So once we get to the camp, look, man, I love the atmosphere that it brings. I love the setting. I love being introduced to the character of Ziggy in this way. She's tough. She's a badass in a certain way. She's kind of a vulnerable badass with a chip on her shoulder. She's accepted her role as a shady sider, and I think that is a good character trait. Sadie Sink plays these kind of rebellious teens really, really well. She does it in Stranger Things, and she does it in this movie as well.
So she just needs to be careful not to get typecast, though.
Yeah, she was also young. Most of you would know this because you've never seen it. She was also young Taylor Swift in the 10-minute version of All Too Well that came out last year. So just pointing that out. She did a great job. Just throwing that out there.
Take your word for that one.
Look, man, I got a wife that's a Swiftie. I don't know what y'all want me to do. Just ignore it like it's not part of my life. I can't do that. No, Dustin.
You can do all things
sometimes
through
you
God.
got to have.
You can do all things through Christ.
Happy wife, happy life, pal. Anyway, but so I really like her as an actor. I think she's really, really good. And I like this character of Cindy. Complete opposites, but they're sisters. I like the dynamic here that we get with both of them. And I think the nurse, the Tommy character, like you mentioned, I'm glad they made him the killer here, because I feel like his character itself is probably really, really boring, really standard camp slasher, which is a good thing because they need some of those characters to kind of put yourself back into that time period as far as camp slashers go. So, I even like Nick Good. They give him a character, even though we know he turns out to be the sheriff. I actually think it's interesting to go back and kind of see he was on the fence. He's like every other person his age. Is this really something I want to do? And you get glimpses into his character, and I think that's a really good sign as well. I like the Nurse Lane thing, how she kind of goes, or you could see the gears turning that something's wrong there. She's really sweaty. She coughs when Sadie Sink first walks in. She's got black circles around her eyes. You learn about her daughter. So I like all this background that all this dialogue is laying. And last thing, and I'm going to go back real quick, is the scene where they were putting Ziggy up by her arms and over $10. Let me tell you something. That's the only part that I thought was just so unrealistic. I was like, all right, who? And it's funny because she called her a psychopath. Sheila, you are a true psycho if you hang somebody up by their wrist for $10 goddamn and burn their arm. That's crazy people talk, man. For lack of a better term, not trying to offend anybody, just the truth. So that's all I had. I like where this is going. Big fan of the plot here as far as this part of the movie anyway.
Where's my money, man? Where's my money?
Give my fucking money. Give it till 5 o'clock, man.
Macaroni and Jim Beam. There was a time in my life where I would consider that a perfect night. But those days have passed. Now I will say this, there is an error there. That bottle is a 200th anniversary Jim Beam bottle. No. Nay says I. 200th anniversary of Jim Beam wasn't until 1995, the next year. So, you're close. You tried. Girl running through the woods got hit with a hell of a clothesline. I mean, I would say JBL, Rick Steiner, and that dude. That's the top 3 clotheslines in the business right there. That was some good shit right there. Stan Hansen would be number 4. One of the things, though, that this movie does that it's not alone. A lot of movies do this. We saw it in what's the movie we saw it in a recent movie we just did, Halloween Ends. Why are friend groups so complicit when one of them gets an idea to commit major crime? Like, one friend's like, no, shut up, quit being a bitch, we're going to burn this girl. And they're like, oh, okay, I'll hold her legs. Like, I don't know, man. I get it. Like, if you want to be loyal to your friend, but murder, I might draw a line there. But
not me. I'm murdering people for you.
I appreciate that. Fuck yeah, dude. Let's go. This opening set of scenes is good in the sense of they establish some characters. They let us know who's good and who's bad. They do a really good job of capturing the era, like I mentioned earlier. I mean, it looks and feels authentic and great. But it does, as far as the actual story, doesn't really. It's like, oh, gather around, children. Let me tell you a story, and flashback, and it's like nothing's really established. So I'm intrigued because I don't really know where we're going yet. So not bad. Did a good job of capturing my interest at least.
All right, Tommy and Cindy are scrubbing floors, and Cindy is venting, scrubbing the fuck out of the floor. She loses it when she rips her sponge in half, cursing. She goes to the supply closet, hyperventilating, and we see something walk behind her. She calls for Tommy, but no answer. She closes the knife drawer, and we see a shadow move. Nurse Lane emerges and says she can't save you while holding a knife. I saw your name, you're going to die tonight, and she attacks Tommy. Tommy pushes her away and smashes her head on a bench, knocking her out. His back of his head is bleeding too. Nurse is gurneyed away as Cindy and Tommy are interrogated. Sheila's crew walks up on Ziggy, calling her a witch. They tell her to check her stuff in cabin 5. She runs back to her cabin. Officer Kopinski apologizes to Nick about his father's passing. A bell rings and all the campers are at chow, talking about Nurse Lane's kid. Tommy tells the table what Nurse Lane said. Gary and Joan joke the witch wants him dead. Kurt gets the crowd's attention. Tonight is Sunnyvale versus Shadyside. Tonight we commence Color War. Joan now goes to the stage and gives a weak speech. Cindy finds Ziggy and asks about Nurse Lane and what was bothering her. Ziggy isn't giving her the time of the day and walking away. Ziggy says there's just something holding Shadysiders down. We're all cursed. Your fake bullshit life will come crashing down. Cindy calls Ziggy a monster. We see inside Ziggy's cabin where Sheila's crew wrote she's a witch monster and slams the door on Cindy. The campers get dressed up ready to play Capture the Flag. Tommy cannot stay focused as he begins to drift off and hear voices. Cindy asks if he's okay and he says he's fine. He says his head is throbbing. Cindy needs his help and the key to the infirmary. They go inside and Tommy asks what we're looking for. Answers. There's a reason Mary said what she said and we're going to find out. Cindy assumes she's on drugs, and Tommy finds the book about Sarah Fier making the deal with the devil. We hear glass break, and they go check it out. They find Alice and Arnie, and they're looking for drugs to take. Alice begins to read from the book sarcastically. This is Sarah Fier shit. Alice finds a map inside the book now. Alice grabs the book, and she and Arnie pop some pills and go on a witch hunt. Cindy follows after her as Tommy sees fire in the distance as he drifts off again. Nick is at Ziggy's cabin now and sees all the graffiti. They talk books, and he says he was there checking on her. He invites her to go check out the science and nature lab. Cindy is chasing after Alice, and Arnie says, I still don't feel anything, so he takes more L484. Cindy rips her shirt, and she asks if Tommy is okay again. They discover all the graves Nurse Lane had been digging. Mary is looking for Sarah Fier's hand to end the curse. Alice asks Cindy what happened to her. Remember when we used to have fun? Arnie says he found the witch's house. Arnie shows them the steps to below. And then Alice jokingly keeps yelling for Sarah. All right, Brian, that's the next set of scenes I got. What do you think?
Yeah, by the way, Cindy, it's going to take you 10 years to scrub that damn floor if you don't move to another spot. So I'm just saying. But another nitpick I had here in this first set is it was the song choice. It was playing First Cut as the deepest. Great song, by the way. But while Nurse Lane is attacking Tommy, to me, it didn't fit. Like, I didn't like that song choice at all. But on the plus side, credit to the cinematographer. Feel like the quick cuts. And by the way, that fighting scene was cut very realistic. I thought it was very well done. Shout out to Macabre Sly, by the way. He does a fantastic job with Tommy and that whole descent into madness. I think he does a good job. And I know the 70s were a different time, but damn. Like the nurse tries to murder a kid, and then it's dang, 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 lunchtime, kids. Sorry, that's an Adam Sandler skit. But anyway, y'all, it's just y'all are good here. I mean, I found that kind of funny. And we get another music cue with that piano, definitely straight from Harry Manfredini's Friday Scores as Tommy and Cindy head to the infirmary, and as they're actually reading the nurse's book, that's that tribute to Omen that I was talking about earlier. That's kind of, it's where the music's kind of got a little bit of an Omen vibe to it. I love it. I love both of them. Go away, Cindy. It's Nick. Go away, Nick. That's so stupid, but I don't know why I laughed. That made me laugh. Like, I don't know why, but
oh, I did too, man. I mean, she's really quippy in this scene. I enjoy it.
And the last thing that I've got, and I may be projecting here, so forgive me, but did anyone else pick up on some like past sexual relationship or something between Cindy and Alice here in the woods? Like, I don't think I picked up on that the last time I watched it, but this time it came across that way to me anyway. So I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
I mean, it could be. Damn it.
Also, the first time I noticed Drew Sheed, who's playing Gary here, Oscar from Halloween 2018. Cool to see him. Other than that, not a whole lot on the set of scenes for me. It did a good job of, just progressing the story. And I'm very interested still at, what lies ahead.
Yeah, not a whole lot here because I think this is just doing some good character work as far as laying background for all the slashy stuff that's coming up. I like this stuff with Nurse Lane. Actually, let me jump back real quick. I like this little interaction with Tommy and Cindy because it shows Cindy as a vulnerable character. Just as far as she's not just Miss Goody Two Shoes. She's stressed and upset and also struggles with just quote unquote just being a shady side, or wants to kind of do more for herself. Doesn't believe in this curse, so she's kind of like Dina's girlfriend, whose name is slipping me in the first one, where she wants to kind of get out of that box and be something else. And I like that about her character because it makes her different than some of the other Shady Siders that we've been introduced to. I like this Nurse Lane kill, or this attempted kill, excuse me. It's a really good, just like she snaps. I think it's portrayed really well. And I'm opposite of Brian. I love the first cut is the deepest. It made it a little humorous, I understand, but I kind of like it. It was a little campy and hokey and over the top, and I think I liked it for that. And I love the quick cuts that it uses, and you know, everything with Tommy and all that stuff. Look, I'm going to tell you something right here. This scene here in the mess hall is probably one of the most annoying in the whole movie. Who gives a shit about this color war? This isn't the set of scenes, right? I have it wrote down here, so I freaking hope so. This scene in the mess hall is really annoying because, like, this guy is like Ben Stiller's character. He's Tony Perkins. This guy is the Tony Perkins of Camp Nightwing, where he's like, "Oh, we gotta win this color war."
We're Perkisizing.
And fuck. Hey, that's a great fucking movie, buddy. Heavyweights. You're lucky that movie didn't have a horror slant because we review it. I have candy. Anyway, so no, I think this dude's really annoying because this guy takes it way too seriously, and I know it was Dead Meat James that said it in his kill count where he talked about why would any Shady Sider ever go to this fucking camp? All they do is completely shit on them the entire fucking time. They have no fun. They're picked on. They're bullied. Why would you ever send your Shady Sider kid to this camp is beyond me. So I don't know. I don't think the color war really added anything to the movie. Small nitpick for sure. But all that. So then we get this the introduction, so to speak, or more of one of Alice, and we're kind of learning some of the backstory with her and Cindy. And I find that that's a really interesting character arc. I like the groundwork that they laid there. Again, not a whole lot more. Thought it was a really good set of scenes to just build that character. My favorite, but it does include one of my favorite scenes, which is this interaction with Cindy and Nick. Because again, we are getting to know Sheriff Good in a different light. Again, he's kind of one of us. He's kind of, a weird kid in a way, where he likes these scary, spooky things, and she likes these scary, spooky things, and they're like, it's a small miniature version of Romeo and Juliet, if you will, where she's not good enough for him, or he's too good for her, or whatever, and they kind of play on those themes, and I like it. So I think it's a good set of scenes. It kind of draws it out a little longer than I think it needs to.
Yeah, hands down, my least favorite set of scenes right here. The nurse going crazy was well done. They hinted at it just enough when she was wrapping Ziggy's arm up, and then you got to see it progress and really play out there. I thought that was well done. But other than that, I mean, there's just a lot of building, a lot of kind of putting things in place and just showing us what the mood is like, what the vibe's like at this camp. That's all that's really happening here. I agree with you, Mike. I don't give a shit about this color war storyline and this whole mess hall scene. And I honestly, to be honest with you, I don't give a shit about Annie and Arnie banging one out and getting walked in on and then wanting to go on this drug mission. Nothing really crazy important happening in this set of scenes other than them finding the map and then Tommy, hearing the little voices whispering at him, whatever, like we saw in the first one. But just a pretty uneventful set of scenes that kind of lay some groundwork, but honestly could be clipped entirely, and I think we'd still be fine.
Well, I want them to leave the scene with Ziggy and Nick in, but that's about it. I think you could maybe cut the majority of this, maybe the Nurse Lane thing with Tommy, and then the thing with Ziggy and Nick, and I think that's all you really need. I don't think you need this color war. And by the way, the guy who played Oscar in Halloween 2018, he plays the same damn character in both of these movies.
Yeah, I was obviously exaggerating when I said cut the whole thing, but I agree. There's some good that could be left, but I feel like this is a nice. This is a ribeye steak, and we got a lot more fat than we do good meat here.
Sounds like a good chuck. Oh, my bad. Sorry.
Pause. She goes down the steps first, and the others follow. Someone has been down here recently, she says. Cindy says Sarah Fier isn't real. Alice calls for Sarah, and says maybe she's shy and goes deeper into another tunnel. They find an occult-like symbol on the ground with a candle lit. Cindy reads off text, and Arnie says the L484 is just Tylenol, and he goes to leave. He sees Tommy sitting stoic and can't get his attention. Cindy moves a book from the shelf. She hears a voice calling her. Alice shows Cindy names on the wall, and she now shows her Tommy's name. Back to Arnie, and he leaves Tommy after he continues to ignore him. Tommy gets an axe and kills Arnie with 3 swings to the face. Cindy and Alice take off running from Tommy. They move the bookcase and go deeper into the tunnels. Cindy kicks him away, and rocks collapse, blocking off their path. They hear him breathing, surprised he's still alive. Tommy exits the steps, axe in hand. The color wars commence as Sheila is delivered a note from Will to go to the outhouse. She sees candles lit, and it looks romantic. She's pranked as roaches are poured all over her, Carrie style, and she's locked inside the outhouse. Ziggy and Nick are back to the science room, and they shake hands. Cindy asks for Alice's help, and she says it's too heavy. We're going to die down here, just like Arnie. Cindy says those names on the wall, they were serial killers. We have to help the campers, my sister. Cindy says Tommy wasn't on drugs. Cindy snaps and pushes Alice after a heated conversation. Cindy leaves her to find a way out. Cindy hears her name whispered again. Cindy walks in a circle and is back with Alice. They realize the symbol is a map. Tommy marches to the camp. Jeremy asks the other kids if they want some refreshments. He kicks open the door and he's egged, and the other prisoners are freed and tagged. Tommy appears and kills the boy viciously. Nick and Ziggy are in the lab, and he asks if she and her sister got along. I've hated her since I was a baby, Ziggy says. She calls him out, saying he likes Stephen King, spiders, and he likes the weird girl from Shadyside. How will I get to know her if she keeps dodging my questions? Ziggy says there was a time when things were good between us. Now everything is shit. I wouldn't expect a Sunnyvaler to understand. Nick doesn't know who he wants to be, and they kiss. They hear screaming, and they find Jeremy's dead body and blood everywhere. Back to Alice and Cindy, and Alice asks if she had to kill him, could you? She says she couldn't kill him or anyone. They both say they love their boyfriends, and they see flies everywhere, and Alice finds the heart beating on the ground. Alice can't resist and touches it. She sees flashback kills and sees a bloody Cindy. She runs away and sees more dead people and falls, snapping her leg. Nick and Gary rally all the campers up, and they realize the phone's dead. Nick tells Ziggy he and Gary will go find her sister, and Gary's caught off guard, him being sweet to her. The two leave to go look. 2 girls pin Ziggy to the wall, asking where's Sheila. All right, Brian, that's the next set of scenes I got. What'd you think, brother?
Yeah, there's another nod from Marco Beltrami's score during this set of scenes, this time to Alien, when they're running through the cavern maze and find that disgusting looking heart. And not that I wasn't interested before, but the movie really picks up here. And Robert Pattinson, Tommy gets to go full emo, and that fucking kill of Artie was awesome. I mean, shit, definitely my favorite kill in the movie. And that's something else we've talked about in the instant reaction. But since this is the first review we've done, go watch part 1, 1994. I mean, holy shit. There's some awesome kills in that one too. But this one looks incredible here. Ellen Arden was the makeup department head, but that entire team did such a tremendous freaking job in this whole thing to me. I think everything looked fantastic. Nothing looked fake to me. And my guy is just killing kids. Like, couldn't kill the bullies, but the kid getting bullied. My guy just got called a fucking nerd, egged, and embarrassed in front of some Sunnyvale honeys he was trying to mac on, then brutally murdered. I mean, holy shit. I mean, damn, props to this movie for having the balls. I mean, that was savage. And also the flowers to the outhouse cracked me up too. Like, nothing more romantic than that, right? I'm going to try that in this next Valentine's Day.
Oh, yeah.
It was a little annoying that Alice had to do even more convincing to Cindy. I mean, come on. Like, after all that, she wouldn't need further convincing, so that annoyed me. And the last thing isn't a nitpick, but this convo between Ziggy and Nick and, even back in the tunnels with Alice and Cindy. I enjoyed it. It didn't bother me personally, but the movie's almost 2 hours long, as we've established, and we're balls deep in the action. So if there was some stuff that you were going to lose, I would admit that, kind of stuff could probably go. Like, again, I liked it, but can put myself into someone else's shoes and see where they would, the movie would drag on a little bit. Nice character development, though. Should have been a clue right there that Ziggy was really Jillian from the beginning upon further review.
Yeah, this is where the movie kind of turns the volume up a little bit. I know you talked about some of the there's some exposition dump a little bit here in this set, but I do think it kind of, again, we're starting to get kills, like real kills. And buddy, that Arnie kill is incredible. Love the effects. Think it looks good. Now there's a little bit of a shot of a bad CGI, but it's so fleeting. Everything else just looks really good. Love that kill, gnarly. I like that this movie mixes up it's showing the kills and using some cutaway stuff too. Like I think there's a good mix of both, and I like both if done correctly. Here's the thing: the stuff between Alice and Cindy's kind of already established. Like we know they were friends, we know they had a falling out. We kind of understand all of that. So when we get to this point where clearly they told Cindy what we've taken is Tylenol. So Tommy wasn't on drugs. So the fact that it took all of that, like Brian said, to convince Cindy that there was something, supernatural going on here was a little annoying. It's like, okay, you can believe somebody. You clearly just saw Tommy go off the deep end, and you kind of had to let him out and to save yourself. But then when you think about it, now we have to go save the whole camp. You've let an animal loose, basically. And I really don't understand why she did. Like, I guess that's just a horror trope. Like, you don't believe the person you're talking to until it's too late. I guess that's what really annoys me about the first Paranormal Activity. So, touche. It's a horror trope for a reason. But yeah, I agree with you. A lot of exposition dump. I will say it was. Okay, how do I put this? I like the character development that we've gotten with Nick Good up to this point, but he goes almost into like this cop protector mode with Ziggy that I don't like, because the character of Ziggy has been so rebellious and so screw this and screw that and uses F-bombs and all this other stuff. Very anti-authority, very rebel spirit. And then she listens to Nick Good and, tries to stay put. Like, that doesn't sit well with me. I didn't like that character interaction. To me, that was the start of their breakdown in what was to come as far as kind of Nick Good taking his rightful place, which is what we see towards the end of the movie. But again, outside of that, man, good kill, moves at a fast pace. You could lose some of the exposition, but I think it's a pretty good set of scenes that kind of sets up the next two, which I think are the climax and the crazy stuff that we're about to get.
Yeah, this set of scenes definitely made up for the last set of scenes, because here we are about 42 minutes into the movie, and boom, we got action. Got a brutal axe murder. It was well done. He had that crazed look in his eye. Now that you said it, Brian, definitely looked like Robert Pattinson. I think this might be the Batman origin story. I don't know. And then I did laugh when he's like, when you find out that the rose petals leading to the bathroom, and it's like, God dang, man, how romantic. And then I even laughed when she's like, we could have just done it in my bunk, but whatever. But that's a hell of a prank there, man. Dropping the bugs on her in the lock her in the bathroom. Like, fuck yeah, dude. Much better than dropping red paint all over. And then, yeah, that poor fat nerd, man. He gets egged, gets axed. That's just terrible luck. He should have stayed in bed that day. He just got, like, he was supposed to be keeping these kids at bay. And they just said, no, fuck that, dude. We're out of here. And, yeah, they all survived. So, also, Alice, my girl, need to drink more milk. You got some brittle-ass bones for your tibia to just snap like that from taking a step down. That was pretty pathetic.
Man, you ain't kidding. It was cool, though. It had cool visual effects. But I was like, from that, get the fuck out. Man, I have done so much worse in the gym and left running out.
Got a little bit of osteoporosis, and, you got to up that calcium intake. But it's a
have some bananas, bitch.
Well, that's potassium. But
I know.
It's a much better set of scenes than last. I mean, the pacing is good here. We know we knew who it was in the last set of scenes. I guess we knew it was going to be Tommy, but we actually get to see him in action here, and we're progressing well. So I like this set of scenes a lot better.
Ziggy runs to free her as Nick calls for all the missing kids. We see Kurt and Joan having sex now, and he says, "You're dead if you tell anyone." She gets dressed and lights up. Kurt yells for her to put it out. He can smell it in here. She goes to check on him, and she sees an open door. She looks out the door and turns around, and Tommy is there, and he hacks her dead. Cindy makes it to Alice, and she says the witch did this. The cave was alive, Alice. Cindy pushes her leg bone back in as she tells her story. I was cursed. She nurses her wound and says, I've been a bad sister and friend. Alice shows Cindy her cuts on her wrist. We all have our ways to deal with Shadyside. Cindy finds some red moss. She thinks maybe we're close to the outhouse. Nick is still searching and sends 2 kids to the mess hall. A douchebag kid leaves with a lamp as the other kids light some matches. Tommy is there now and slaughters them all. Ziggy makes it to the outhouse and opens the door. She calls for Sheila and she attacks Ziggy. Cindy and Alice say it smells like shit. They've made it to the outhouse. Sheila and Ziggy continue to fight and Gary arrives. Ziggy hears shouting and looks below, finding her sister and Alice. Nick goes into another cabin and finds the dead campers slaughtered by Tommy. He vomits from seeing the scene and Kurt runs up saying, he didn't do it, I just found her. Nick says, rally them up and get them on the bus and out of here. Ziggy lowers the bucket below and Alice goes up first. She's almost up to the top, but Tommy shows up and he decapitates Gary. Poor fellow, he can't catch a break. Alice falls below and Ziggy runs away. She runs into Nick and they hide in the science lab. Ziggy says it's Tommy and it's all Shadysiders dying. The bell rings and he says we have to get out of here. They have a sweet moment and they go to leave, but Tommy makes it inside. Tommy looks around the room and sees a bloody handprint on the floor. He bashes the snake aquarium. The snake crawls on Ziggy and Nick and the snake crawls on Ziggy and Nick, and Tommy grabs Ziggy. Nick pushes her away and takes an axe blow to the leg. Ziggy runs away from Tommy now. Alice tells Cindy we have to find another way out. Cindy looks through the diary and Alice says the meeting house is by the mess hall. Alice sends Cindy by herself to save her sister. Ziggy tries to stop the bus, but they don't hear her. Ziggy sees Tommy in pursuit and she runs away. Alice reads more from the book and she pulls at the red moss. Cindy finds an exit and yells out, hello, can anyone hear me? Ziggy turns on some music and Tommy enters the building following the footprints. Cindy begins to kick the vent. Tommy chops at the door and enters the pantry. Ziggy leads him astray with fake footprints, but the music cuts and he hears her behind him. She stabs his chest, but he punches her and chokes her. Ziggy grabs a sack and covers his head with it and smothers him. He stands up menacing as hell, and Ziggy runs away. He goes to chop her with the axe, but Cindy stabs him in his back and in his chest several times. And the next set of scenes are the ending. What'd you think, Brian?
This is where a lot of the nitpicks really kick in for me. There's a lot of stuff in this group of scenes that bothered me. First off, though, another decent kill with Joan. Didn't quite show what Artie's did, but there were some nice after effects. Again, great job to Arden and her team on that, but still not quite what we got to see with Artie. It's respectable, though. Okay, so it's nitpick o'clock for me, but I will say if Alice was getting her bone pushed back into her skin like that, she would probably pass out from the pain and not just wince a little like somebody touched a bruise. But hey, okay, that is what it is. And it was fucking disgusting with Ziggy putting her head in a toilet hole. Like, it made me want to gag just thinking about the smell. I mean, there's shit and piss all over those rocks, but it was just like, I don't know. That would have been a much bigger deal for me. And it just kind of grossed me out. Also, they aren't pulling up a human being that easy on a bucket. Gary was just easily wrapping it around his arm like a fucking extension cord with no tension. And then we get the decapitation, which I've said a million times, but this may be the first time someone's listened. So you aren't cutting someone's head off unless you're Zombie Jason or Tyler Mayne Myers. And even then, it's taken more than one hack, with more hacks after that, probably. But anyway, also my guy, Nick, not the best time to hit on some girl. I felt like that was definitely out of place there to me. And if you're out there, chopping necks and cashing checks with one swing, you're not going to just hit Nick with the axe and barely give him a flesh wound either. He'd have taken off his leg. So you got to I'm going to need some more consistency there. He hit Nick with an axe and barely even gave him a flesh wound. And, and Cindy just leaves the book that shows her the way out. But okay, leaves the book with Alice by the shit and the piss stones. So I was like, oh, okay, come on. I did like how the moss came back into play from the beginning. And the lighting was, I thought it was tremendous when Tommy went to murder more kids in the cabin, with the flick of the match off and on. I thought that looked great. But really good tension build up, too, with them in the mess hall. I thought it was smart of Ziggy to cover up the noise with "Carry On, My Wayward Son." Not to mention that's a badass scene or a badass song to have the creation of Sackhead Jason. It seemed come into play. Also, hey, a killer is dead on the ground. Not the time for a fucking like makeup session speech conversation. And nobody even being out of breath had me. Honestly, I was shaking my head a little bit there. Overall, a lot of nitpicks here, but again, this is one of those movies that I can overlook the nitpicks and still have fun and find it entertaining. It was an entertaining little group of scenes heading into the ending.
Yeah, to me, I'm having fun at this point. Like, all the nitpicks you said are totally valid, and I can just completely ignore them all because I'm having fun here. Like, I really the sex scene that opens this set right here is a really good straight up nod to Halloween '78. The see anything you like, see like that's. I mean, it has everything that you want from that scene. You know, with the volume turned up a little bit. Like, I think it's a really good nod, a more modern spin on it, and I think the kill looks good as well. I almost forgot the fact that, and I don't have it anywhere in my notes, and that says but I do hear that, that they got revenge on Sheila the way they did with all the bugs and stuff. I thought that was great, and I knew that would come back to haunt them later, and it almost did. But you get to the outhouse here, and you've got Sheila and Ziggy fighting, and I think I really like that we circle back around to that. Here comes Gary, who, by the way, has two of the cooler deaths in horror movie history to me. Like, that is a clean chopping of the head, which I know you said is unrealistic, and it is. But it looks really cool. The same way he had one of the best kills in the Halloween franchise to me by having his face through the fence post, I thought was really cool. So, if you're going to play two characters in a horror movie and you're going to get killed off, might as well get killed off in cool fashion. I think that they did a good job there. You're absolutely right. When she hears them down in the the bottom of the toilet outhouse thing, just fucking disgusting. And look, we're talking about a movie full of gore and all kinds of stuff, but to open your head and just to open that hole and just put your head down in it, no fear on Fear Street here for Ziggy for sure. Just disgusting. And the fact that Cindy and Alice are crawling up on these rocks that are full of toilet paper and shit and piss and who knows what else is just gross. Now, I know this isn't a nod, but them lowering that bucket reminded me of put the lotion in the fucking basket, which I thought was really funny. You can nitpick this, and look, I think the music here is really, really good. I like that we get some more camper kills. A lot of these Friday the 13th movies that are at camp kind of kill the counselors more than anything else. And so, to kill some of the younger campers, I like when someone goes there. I've said this a billion times on this show, but out of context, it's going to sound crazy. But when a movie has the balls to kill a kid, I can appreciate that. I like when a movie has the balls to go there. That does not sound good when you take it out of context. I understand. I really, really do. But yeah, look, I think the suspense as far as like the, in the nature center or whatever, I think that's, really good. I think the snake, behind the scenes ended up being a problem. Like, it kept like looking at the camera, launching itself at the camera and stuff like that. And I think the cast and crew had a fun time with it. Overall, I think this is a really just fun set of scenes. I'm having a lot of fun with it. You definitely get a Team Sack nod, which I appreciate. Go Team Sack. There's no doubt that's what you get here. And I like that too. So the fact that he's my favorite killer in this whole franchise is no coincidence, but because, I'm hashtag Team Sack, baby.
All right, so in this set of scenes, I started out by thinking, Will, my guy, why would you be ashamed of hooking up with Joan? It's like, you tell her when I'll kill you. I don't give a shit where she was from. As long as we ain't blood related, I'd be proud of that one, man. She's pretty attractive. But Joan really was a very pointless character. She was only in this movie to give us another death. I mean, aside from the sex scene and getting axed in the face and then her rolling one up in the middle of the mess hall, what would you say she does here? Nothing. We had some full house moments, though, in this set of scenes and for the rest of the movie. And what I mean by full house moments are we have moments that they're over the top morally and touching. When Cindy and Alice are having their little heart-to-heart here, and then the whole thing with Ziggy, that's exactly what a Sonny Baylor would say. I thought you were different. Gag. Like, it's just...
That's what I'm saying, man. Whatever happened to predictability? The milkman, the paperboy, evening. Oh, sorry.
Hey, cut it out.
Cut it out.
So, but no, I mean, it's just if you do it once, it's fine. But damn it, man, it's a theme with the rest of the movie, and it really wears on my nerves a little bit. Side note, though, positive. If you're gonna do CG animals, this is how it's done. The snake looked pretty damn good, crawling up the leg there. I don't know if it's CG or if it was just like green screened in or whatever, but I mean, that looked good, relatively speaking. And then my guy Tommy, as he's wielding that axe around, I couldn't help but notice, as a fellow wood chopper from way back, I like his form while he was chopping down that door. That was some good shit there, man. You don't have to wear safety goggles when you know what you're doing, so I respect it, and definitely reminded you of Jack from The Shining there, so that was pretty awesome. And then, yeah, he definitely got turned into Sackhead. And between that, the camp setting, and then I swear when the bus was driving off there, when Ziggy was running out, I swear I heard a ch-ch in the score there. And so I was just waiting on but it's clear that Friday the 13th was a heavy inspiration for this movie. But definitely a much better set of scenes as far as action and pacing, and it looks like we're moving towards a conclusion because he's damn near killed half the camp at this point. It's just I couldn't get away from the whole touching heart to heart shit when we're trying to kill some characters off. Didn't like it.
I agree, because everywhere you look, everywhere you go, there's a heart. Oh, sorry. My bad.
Everywhere you look.
All right, guys, here's the ending. Ziggy and Cindy hug, and Ziggy says she smells like shit, and they joke around some. Cindy apologizes to her for not being there. Ziggy says, I could have been nicer, less of a monster. Suddenly, they hear a noise. It's Alice from the grate. They help her out, and she says, you did it, and they hug. Alice says she found it. She shows them Sarah Fier's lost hand. The curse will last until body and hand unite. We can end this. We can save Shadyside. Ziggy bleeds on the hand and sees flashbacks. She says she saw Sarah Fier. She was angry. We have to bury this thing right now. Back to the tunnels, and we see the other killers come to life from the heart. The carved names begin to drip blood. Tommy's hand moves, and Alice tells of all the bad things from her past. She wants to go with them to bury the hand. Tommy appears, and he kills Alice. Cindy hits him in the head with the shovel, and she decapitates him with it. Cindy cries over Alice. Ziggy asks, what is that, as they hear singing. A hand appears from the grate, and they take off running. Tommy grabs Ziggy, but they get away. They get to the hanging tree, and they start to dig, and Cindy sees all the killers approaching. They hit a rock that says, the witch forever lives. Cindy grabs Ziggy, and they realize they're surrounded. Cindy asks Sarah Fier to let her sister live. You bled on the bones, they're after you. Tommy attacks Cindy as Ziggy is caught. Tommy hacks Cindy to death with an axe as Ziggy is stabbed in her side repeatedly. We hear thunder as we see the sisters lay there dead, reaching for each other. C. Berman continues the story as we see Nick run up on Ziggy. He gives her CPR and brings her back to life. Christine says, most days I wish I stayed dead. Josh says, wait, you're Ziggy? Nick tells the paramedics her name is Christine Berman, and Ziggy sees her sister carried away on a stretcher. Ziggy says no one believes her story. Nick doesn't believe the Sarah Fier story. You don't become sheriff telling ghost stories. Tommy Slater just went crazy. Ziggy says she couldn't see him again after that. We see all the dead bodies on the ground outside the camp. There is no end. An alarm clock goes off and she tells them to run away. Dina says she found the body. We found what you were looking for in 78. We found Sarah Fier. Dina asks, where's the hand? Is it still under the hanging tree? Josh and Dina are in the mall, and they dig under the tree and find the hand. Christine calls to talk to Sheriff Nick Good. Sheriff says he'll take care of it and turns his lights on. Dina is at the body site, and her nose bleeds. She begins to dig, and she reunites the hand, and she has flashbacks now. She's back to the 1600s where it all started. To be continued in the end credits roll. All right, Brian, what'd you think about the ending?
All right, so I got a lot of nitpicks too. First of all, Alice standing up, walking around like it's no fucking problem here after a compound fracture to her ankle bothered me like a lot, like way more than it should have. But I didn't have too much, time to really be aggravated because apparently Cindy is Mark Henry and the fucking world's strongest man and was able to cut Tommy's head off with a fucking shovel like you would a snake or something. I don't know. I thought that was absolutely ridiculous. Along with digging in the exact correct spot for the first time, for the witch's body, but end up finding a rock, whatever. But again, we're not here for the realism. I did kind of like the hopeless situation the sisters get put in around the tree, the slow motion stabs, and they're both lying there dead. The hacks to Cindy were fantastic. And you're sitting there going, what the fuck? Like, how is she alive in the future? And then you get the old twist-a-maroo. Where's this dick? Sorry. But also, come the hell on. Like, Ziggy was revived from stab wounds from CPR. Like, I always wondered how...
Huge nitpick.
Well, I always wondered...
It's not good. It's not good.
I always wondered how Dewey got brought back so many times. Now we know. Easy as that. Just got a little bit of CPR. Now they should have ended, to me, they should have ended with the music playing and the end of the story being told. The rest of this just seems like something that should have been the start of the next movie. Like all the shit at the mall, the Quantum Leap. By the way, great show back in the day, by the way. Not the remake. Scott Bakula for life. Great show, Quantum Leap. But all the jumping body shit, that should have been just the start of the next one. Just put that in 1666 in part 3. Just my personal opinion.
Yeah, I really like the majority of this ending. I like everything we get with Cindy and Ziggy. They've had this really good character story arc as far as just being on opposite ends and having to come together. Cindy realizing that she was a little stuck in her ways, a little stuck up, and then you have Ziggy kind of come to the realization that you may be trying to do something else, but we're still family. We have to be there for each other. I really like that, and I know that's a little too full house for Dustin, which is, by the way, that's the new phrase on the show. Anytime something's warm and loving, and that the time where Ed plays the guitar in The Conjuring 2, that's full house of shit right there, because Uncle Jesse would have hopped on there and started doing some Elvis shit. So I can appreciate that being our new term for softer things that happen in these horror movies. But I like their connection that they decide to make. I like the apology that Cindy gives, all of that stuff. I like that they're about to go into battle together. Because when Ziggy's lost out there and all alone, Cindy is sorry, my bad. Last Full House reference, I promise. So these kills, quote unquote, look really, really good. And the first time I watched it, I remember thinking, wow, they had the balls to kill off these two main characters, but we know one of them doesn't die. But it's still in the moment you kind of forget, oh yeah, no, that didn't happen. They didn't have the balls. But you're like, whoa, holy shit, both of them are dying. And then you quickly snap out of it and oh yeah, Cindy obviously lives. Well, she doesn't. It ends up being Ziggy. I really like that touch as well. I hate how they bring her back. It's super annoying that it's just CPR. I don't know if Nick Good. Now, I take it now with the context of 1666, knowing what the Good family really is. I kind of took him having some kind of untapped, unknown supernatural ability or something. That's the way I took it. With having the context of the third movie, if you think about what the Good family line ends up doing, with all his, I guess, Satanist stuff or demon stuff or whatever, all that he does down there, I kind of took that as the Goods having some kind of powers or something. That's the only explanation, other than they had no way to bring her back, and they just kind of wrote themselves into a box. Completely agree on the very end here, though, Brian. You could tack all that on to 1666. You really, really could. I don't think it's necessary to even go back to the 90s even. Just let the music play. Let Ziggy come back to life. You could reveal that it's Ziggy in the 90s and then kind of fade out the music. I think that's perfectly fine. But they add a little bit too much on here for me. And so it kind of ends on a flat note for a movie that I just have had so much fun with and really, really enjoy.
Yeah, not my favorite. I mean, we get just another Full House moment to start us off here between, it's just too much heart to heart. And it's very predictable here when Alice is the one crawling up from the hole. They try to make it dramatic with the score and then the look of panic in her eyes as to who's coming up, what's the sound we're about to hear. But it was very obviously going to be Alice coming there. And when they're talking to each other and they say, we can save Shadyside tonight, that gave me very Evil Dies Tonight vibes. Like, that was a very Halloween Kills moment there. And then after this, we just waste more time with yet another touching heart-to-heart moment. And this one ends up with Alice getting killed. Because if you just didn't argue with her and let her go along with you, why the fuck would you, like, that pissed me off. Like, no, we're going to stand here and drag this out for a few minutes. I'm going to tell you that you don't need to come. Your leg's broken and you need to stay behind. We'll handle this. Just shut up. Shut up. Whoever wants to go can go. Like, just get it over with. And then after we get all this stuff and after I can forgive the fact that mouth-to-mouth resuscitation is going to bring back someone who's been stabbed 94 times and axed more than Dick in The Shining. But one thing I cannot forgive is you're going to tell me we go from Ziggy having red hair, freckles, and blue eyes as a kid to growing up and having brown hair, no freckles, and brown eyes? Got it. Okay. All right. I draw the fucking line here, pal. My man Tommy's head reattached itself to the body, and I can believe that more than the fact that I can believe someone's going to grow up and their physical appearance is going to change that drastically. Get the fuck out of here. But overall, I mean, it's entertaining. It's an entertaining movie, and I didn't hate it. It's just got a little bit of things I would have done differently.
That's fair. Any more final thoughts on the ending before you jump into social media comments? All right. Let's knock out Facebook first. Big fan of the show, Kevin Potoff. This is a great series. Lots of fun. I was pretty impressed with the story. Plenty of gore and jump scares. Overall, good time. Mike, you know you're doing it right if Kevin Potoff likes you.
I was going to say, I feel honored to be quite fucking honest here.
All right. Instagram, JHambrick88, another big fan of the show. I freaking love this movie. I think it's up there as one of the best camping horror movies. Okay. I'm not going to disagree with you, honestly.
No,
Jake. No. All right, now let's jump over to Twitter. Sean Irwin tweeted us saying, this whole trilogy was super fun, but this one was absolutely nuts. Perfect homage to 80s cheese. Agree 100%, Sean. Kevin Scanlon, teammate of the show. This is my favorite of the trilogy. Has a legit 80s slasher vibe to it. I definitely dig this one. I agree with you again, brother. And the last comment is Randy Smith. I like the first two, not so much the third. Fun fact, it was filmed in the same place as Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives. I think they got debunked in Dead Meats. I think it was kind of close, but I don't think it was the exact camp.
Well, they filmed them both from what I read.
Yeah, there's some YouTuber who like goes to all these horror land sites or whatever, and he kind of debunked it. But I think it was like they were close or something.
They filmed a few shots at the original camp, yes.
Yeah, I've got it right here. Camp Rutledge.
It's nothing.
Camp Rutledge is the one from Little Darlings and... but it was also a scene from Little Darlings and from this was filmed at Camp Daniel Morgan, which is where Friday Part 6 was filmed. A scene. It's the one with the dock.
It's nothing major. All right, guys, that's all the social media comments and questions. Anybody got fun facts they want to knock out first, and Mike can handle the budget? Brian, I just want to say I'm glad you pointed out some things that you did, because I was like, I hope I'm not the only one who has these nitpicks, because I don't want Mike to think I'm just nitpicking the hell out of his movie. But the CPR thing definitely bothered me. I'm like, what the hell? It's like, bro, she bled out. She didn't drown. And
she got stabbed in the ribs, in the side, and twisted. And I mean, that was one of many. And she's cool with some CPR.
And Alice's leg, that bothered the hell out of me.
Seriously.
I don't care how much L4-8-4 you took. It ain't stopping that pain.
Not near enough.
Okay, so no budget, and it didn't make a whole lot of money because it was on Netflix. So that's
that was a good little month of horror. But we're done with fun facts and all that. Let's jump into our rating, favorite kill and least favorite kill. Anybody in particular want to kick us off? I'll go first. Favorite kill. There was two of them, honestly, I was torn between, but I went with Arnie. I said it was so sudden, and the axe chops to the face looked great, and it was really a nice way to kind of start the second act of the movie. I really liked it. Least favorite kill, I chose Alice, but I could have gone with some off-screen kills, but it just bothered me so much. Her walking on that leg, and her kill was just a slash, and we didn't really see much of it. Rating, I just wrote a little paragraph, Mike. I'm a big fan of this movie. It was my favorite of the trilogy for sure, and it's not really close. Gives me some nostalgic vibes to old 80s campy slashers. Huge fan of Sadie Sink. I mean, I'm a stan. I can't even lie. Really hope to see her in a big screen horror movie as a final girl. Good kills, and I like Tommy as the main killer. Wish he had the sack on his head more, though. I like the callbacks to other horror movies, and I like the music and score throughout. The cons, Nick not believing Ziggy at all after what they just went through kind of bothered me. Right. Alice walking on her broken leg annoyed the fuck out of me, honestly. And I also think it's ridiculous. Like me and Brian were just talking about, Sadie got resurrected with CPR when she got stabbed and she was bleeding out. That didn't make sense. But anywho, I'm a big fan of this. It's one of my favorite recent horror movies, like in the past couple of years. And I'm glad you picked it, Mike. And I gave it an 8. I have fun with this movie, a lot of fun.
I'll go ahead and go only because my favorite kill and least favorite kill are exactly like Nico's, so I'm going to go into it, of Arnie and Alice. And again, I know it probably feels like I hated this because I picked it apart, especially the second half, and bitched about it, seemingly everything. But like I said at the jump, I'm able to look past the flaws and have fun with this one, and really the whole series, and that's really what I rated it on. I gave it a flat 7.
Okay. I'll go ahead and go real quick. So my favorite kill is going to be Gary. Although I don't think he swung hard enough to decapitate him, it at least looked good, and it was cool. Like, not just did it look good after seeing what the body looked like without the hip, but it was also, I like how they did it. Like, the body then just fell in the shitter, and that was kind of funny. My least favorite kill was the fat nerd, because not only did my man get egged in the face and get axed to death, but it also happened off screen. It was off screen. Like, we got to see him swing the axe, but no.
I believe that kid's name was Jeremy, if I'm not mistaken.
Fat nerd. I enjoyed the movie, but it does have its flaws, like I said. The second half of the movie just tries too hard to be morally appealing and touchy-feely and heartwarming and all that shit. And there's a lot of things that are just unbelievable, like genetics changing as the character ages, a head reattaching itself to a zombie corpse, which I could forgive. CPR, bringing back someone who's been axed to death. It's not a perfect movie. I do like it though, and once you get to about the 40-minute mark, man, the last hour of the movie really feels like it flies by. So usually a lot of times that's the opposite. Like, the first half of the movie goes by fast and then it lulls in the middle. This one lulls at the beginning. So if you get past the lulling at the beginning, it's a very fun movie. I do like the first one a little bit more than this one, but I like this one enough to give it a 6.75. Okay.
My favorite kill is Arnie. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. Really cool. Great visuals. Love it. I mean, it was tied with Gary. I mean, they're both right up there. My least favorite kills are the 3 camp kids they kill off screen, just because I praise them for having balls to do it, and I praise them for even having off-screen kills. I like the mix, but if you're asking me what my least favorite ones are, it's going to always be those, because I want to see creativity if you're going to do it. But look, everything I said at the beginning, this is just such a fun movie. I have such a fun time with it. It's a great nod to 80s cheese. It doesn't have as much of that 80s cheese, which I think is a good modern take, a direction to go with it. But it does have enough there to make you give you that nostalgic feeling like you're watching a Friday the 13th movie or Sleepaway Camp back in the past. It has that same feel. I love that about it, and it does a great job kind of paying good tribute to it. I like the characters. I like the story. I like how it adds to the lore of Rachel Fier and everything else. Like, I really think that they do a good job of just adding some layers. It's a really hard, as we've seen, David Gordon Green, to do a really good middle chapter without it being a little messy and feeling like a middle chapter. And this one doesn't feel like a middle chapter to me. It feels like just a continuation of a story, like you're watching a good Netflix series, and that's what you get here. It just feels like another episode in a really good Netflix series. So, again, top-notch acting to me in a lot of stuff. I like the writing. I like everything. I gave this movie an 8.5.
Okay.
My man. Before you go, Dustin, one more thing I want to compliment. It's at the very beginning. You probably won't understand it, but the clock noise, thought instantly of Vecna.
Oh, yeah, I get that reference.
Hell yeah, brother. Maybe
I don't. What is that? I just know. I know it's Stranger Things.
You know what you should
I
have
know
thought
it's Stranger
about?
Things because I saw a lot of people tweeting about it when that last season came out. But that's all I got.
And I'm sure you heard the sound on TikTok.
Probably.
You should have thought about Back to the Future instead of Vecna, but here we are.
But betwixt the four of us, we have a composite score of 7.5625, slightly higher than the IMDb score of 6.7 with 64,000 votes.
Nice. Great pick, Mike. Any more final thoughts? Anybody?
I'm good, fellas.
Nope. Thinking about changing one of the picks coming up to 1994 actually now. 'Cause
That'd be fun. Let's do it, man.
Had such a good time doing this one.
Do it, brother. I'm just going to shout out our blood donors, and I'll announce my pick for next week. Can't stress enough to all of our blood donors. Y'all mean a lot to us. The financial contributions in these tough times means a lot because you really don't have to do this, but you choose to do it because you love our show, and that means a lot to me. Camper level reoccurring are Clayton J., Nina, Michelle Mirza, Andrew Ferguson, Carrie Adams, the Horror Movie Crew podcast, Alex Seligson, Eric Doolittle, and Sean Irwin. Our camp counselor reoccurring are Hunter Nelson, Dennis Kennedy, Edwin Hernandez-Gunn, Joe Swinford, Jennifer Davis from the Too Close to Home pod, Heather Smith, Kyler Denise, all the way from Australia, Adrian Aiello, Jake Hambrick, the Legion podcast, and Clay Moore. And our final guide donors we still have film reviews to do for are Christian Cunningham and Matt Sears. And we'll be doing those in 3 weeks, I believe. So we'll be knocking out both of those. I'm excited to do that. All right, next week is my pick for our third entry in streaming original. I'm taking this to Shudder. This is a movie that when I put on the calendar, I had not seen it. So I picked it because it gave me a reason to watch it. It's called Sun. It's from 2020 or 2021. I can't remember exactly. But it's got Andy Matichak as the starter. And I picked it because I wanted to see her as a lead. And I have watched the movie, and she does a great job. It also has Emil Hirsch, alumni of the show from Autopsy of Jane Doe. Mm-hmm. So I think it's going to be a fun pick. But I'm excited to review it with you guys. I feel like a lot of people don't know about it.
One of the very rare times I'm going into a show having never seen the movie we're about to review, so that's good. I like that.
Mike, give me some Powerball numbers after this because I feel like I just did the impossible.
Nah, fam, someone won.
Right.
Picking a movie that Mike hasn't seen.
Hey, I think we're up to 6 of those now, maybe. not counting never seen it, month. Because I'd seen a lot of you never seen it, so never mind.
I still can't believe you never saw Law Abiding Citizen. That blows my mind.
Yeah, but, I don't know. I just skipped it, man. Not on purpose. Just missed it.
No, it happens. Any final thoughts, guys, for just in the episode? All right, fans, we really appreciate y'all. Leave us a rating on Apple and Spotify. We really appreciate that. Follow us, like us, subscribe us, all that on social media. We really appreciate y'all. We love interacting. It means a lot, and we're almost to 1,000 on YouTube. I'm going to keep pushing that till we get there. We're getting close, so I'm hopeful we get there soon, especially by the end of the year. That'd be a great goal to hit. Anywho, thank you, fans. We really appreciate y'all. We hope you like Streaming Original Month. It's been fun. Y'all have a good one. Just want to remind everybody.